Did you know that before it became a global symbol of luxury, BMW was banned from building engines and survived by making cooking pots? This is the incredible true story of how a dying company rose from the ashes to rule the road. If you want to improve your English with inspiring stories like this, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications right now. Let's begin. Hello everyone. Welcome back to the channel. I am John, and I am so happy you are here with me today. Today, we are going to listen to a very powerful, emotional, and deeply inspiring story. It is the story of one of the most famous car brands in the world, BMW. But my friends, I want you to know something important before we start. This is not just a business story. No, this is a story about war. It is a story about failure, struggle, and reinvention. It is a story about a company that was once banned, forbidden by law, from building engines. They were stopped completely, but they came back stronger than ever. This is a company that was once on the edge of collapse. They were almost gone forever, but they rose up to become a global symbol of power, luxury, and engineering excellence. BMW is not just a car brand. For many people, it is a dream. It is a lifestyle. It is a symbol of victory through pain. In this story, you will learn about history, success, and innovation. You will learn about the power of never giving up, even when everything looks dark. And of course, this story will help you improve your English. I will tell you everything in easy, clear, and beginner-friendly language. It is perfect for listening practice and learning real-world vocabulary. So, if you are learning English, or if you are searching for a story that will inspire you, educate you, and change the way you see failure, please listen to this video until the very end. This is the real, full story of BMW. From warplanes to luxury cars, from ashes to empire, from nothing to global domination. Now, let's begin our journey. Chapter 1. The Beginning. Before BMW was born. Let's go back in time. We are going to the late 1800s. This was a time before BMW even existed. Imagine Germany in those days. It was going through massive industrial growth. New factories, loud machines, and new technologies were being built every single day. The air was filled with smoke, and the sound of metal working against metal. The world was changing fast, but nobody knew that one of the most powerful car companies in history was about to be born. And here is a surprise. It did not start with cars. It did not even start on the roads. It started in the sky. The original name of BMW was not BMW. It all began in the year 1913. A brilliant engineer named Karl Rapp started a company in Munich, Germany. He called it Rapp Motoren Werke. Karl Rapp was a man with a vision. He was not building cars for the street. He was building engines for airplanes. At that time, Germany needed powerful engines to compete in the First World War. Rapp's company became a major supplier. His engines were strong. They were reliable. They were fast. This was exactly what the German aircraft needed to fly. But Karl Rapp was not alone in the city of Munich. In the same city, there was another mechanical genius. His name was Gustav Otto. Gustav Otto was also building aircraft engines. His company was called Gustav Otto Flugmaschinenfabrik. The name Otto was very famous. Gustav was the son of Nikolaus Otto, the man who invented the four-stroke internal combustion engine. That is the engine type we still use in most cars today. These two men, Karl Rapp and Gustav Otto, were competitors. They were both building the future of flight. But after years of growing separately, something massive happened. In 1916, their companies merged together. They joined forces to form a new company called Bayerische Werke, or BFW for short. Then, just 1 year later, in 1917, this company changed its name again. The new name was BMW, Bayerische Motoren Werke. In English, this means Bavarian Motor Works. They needed a logo, a symbol. They chose a blue and white circle. These colors were inspired by the flag of Bavaria, the state in Germany where the company was founded. Many people also believe the logo looks like a spinning airplane propeller against a blue sky. It is a beautiful image, isn't it? So, BMW was born. But remember, they still weren't building cars. They were building airplane engines, and they were doing it extremely well. By the time World War I was fully in motion, BMW had become a key part of the German military supply system. Their engines were known for their performance and power in the sky. One of their most famous early engines was the BMW Treaty. It was built in 1917. It was a 6-cylinder inline engine used in German fighter planes. It was powerful enough to fly high without losing strength. This gave the pilots a huge advantage in the air. But then, everything changed. Germany lost the war in 1918. The fighting stopped. In 1919, the Treaty of Versailles was signed. This was a peace agreement, but it was very hard on Germany. The treaty banned Germany from producing aircraft or aircraft engines. This was a disaster for BMW. Think about it. BMW was a company born to build airplane engines. Now, that exact activity was illegal. They were crushed. Their purpose was gone. Their market was gone. Their product was banned. The factories went quiet. The workers were worried. This was their first near-death moment. But BMW did not give up. After being banned from aircraft engine production, BMW had two choices. Choice 1, close the company and disappear forever. Choice 2, reinvent themselves. They chose the second path. In 1923, they built something new. It wasn't a plane engine. It was a motorcycle. They called it the BMW R32. This was a breakthrough. It had a flat twin boxer engine, a shaft drive, and a unique design where the cylinders stuck out to the sides. This design is something BMW bikes are still famous for today. The motorcycle was beautiful. It was strong. It was fast. And it was reliable. And just like that, BMW moved from the air to the road. Their motorcycles became popular across Germany and Europe. People saw them as premium, high-quality machines. In just a few years, BMW was once again profitable. They were respected. They were growing. But they were not done yet. There was one more step to complete their transformation. They wanted to build cars. In 1928, BMW made a bold move. They bought a company called Fahrzeugfabrik Eisenach. This factory was already building small cars under the name Dixie. BMW took the design of the Dixie, which was based on a license from the Austin 7 in England, and they improved it. The result was the BMW 315. This was BMW's very first car. It was small, it was affordable, and it was successful. It wasn't a luxury machine yet, but it proved something very important. BMW could build cars, and people would buy them. But just as BMW began to find its identity on the road, the world around it changed again. And this time, it changed in the most brutal and terrible way. The year was 1933. Germany was changing politically, socially, and dangerously. Adolf Hitler and the Nazi Party had come to power. Their focus was clear: military expansion. They wanted more weapons, more planes, more tanks, and more war. For a company like BMW, whose roots were in engineering powerful engines, that meant one thing. BMW was pulled back into the world of military production. As World War II began, the German military turned to BMW once again, not for cars, not for motorcycles, but for airplane engines. BMW had the knowledge. They had the engineers. They had the factories. And Germany had no time to waste. BMW became one of the main producers of aircraft engines for the Nazi war machine. They built incredibly powerful engines. One was the BMW 801, used in the famous Focke-Wulf FW-190 dogfighter plane. Another was the BMW 003, one of the world's first jet engines. It was used in the Messerschmitt Me 262, the first jet-powered fighter aircraft in history. Yes, BMW was literally helping build the future of flight with technology far ahead of its time. But that also meant they were building weapons of war. Here is a truth that must be told honestly. We cannot ignore it. During World War II, as BMW increased its military production, the German government under the Nazi regime began using forced labor. Tens of thousands of people, including prisoners of war, concentration camp victims, and foreign civilians, were forced to work in BMW factories. The conditions were horrible. They were inhuman. These were innocent people. They were often treated like machines, not humans. They were hungry. They were scared. They were beaten. They had no choice. And yes, BMW was part of that system. This is a painful truth in BMW's history. The company has later acknowledged this dark past. In fact, BMW's own historians and researchers have published detailed reports about this. The company has supported projects and foundations to remember the victims and make sure this never happens again. It is important to understand that success stories are not always clean. Real history is full of mistakes, pain, and truth. BMW's survival came at a terrible cost during the war. In 1945, World War II ended. Germany had lost. The price of that loss was absolute destruction. When Allied forces, especially the US and UK, bombed German industrial areas, BMW's factories were targeted. Their Munich plant, the heart of BMW, was heavily damaged by air raids. It was a pile of broken metal and bricks. Their other plant in Eisenach, where they built cars, ended up on the other side of the new post-war border. It was now in East Germany, under Soviet control. BMW lost everything. They lost their factories. They lost their workers. They lost their car production. They lost their engine business. They lost their brand image. Worse than that, the Allied Control Council, which governed Germany after the war, banned BMW from producing anything mechanical. No planes, no engines, no motorcycles, no cars. They were completely frozen. For 3 years, from 1945 to 1948, BMW was legally banned from doing what it was born to do. Can you imagine that? A company that once made cutting-edge jet engines was now reduced to nothing. They had to find other ways to survive. So, what did BMW do? They started making cooking pots. Yes, you heard me correctly. Cooking pots. And bicycles. And household items. They made anything that could be made from scrap aluminum left from bombed aircraft and engine parts. They even made farm tools and kitchen equipment. It was not glamorous work. It was not profitable. But it kept a few people employed. It kept the lights on. It kept the name alive. By 1948, BMW was allowed to restart limited production, but only for motorcycles. They brought back the BMW R24, a single-cylinder motorcycle. It sold reasonably well, but it was not enough to save them. In 1951, BMW tried to get back into car production with the BMW 501. It was a large luxury sedan. But here was the problem. The car was too expensive to build. It was too slow compared to its competitors. And it was too expensive for the post-war German people to afford. BMW was bleeding money. The company had fewer than 10,000 employees. They were losing money every single year. By 1959, BMW was almost bankrupt. They were worth almost nothing. They couldn't pay their debts. They couldn't compete with Mercedes-Benz, which was dominating the luxury segment. A deal was proposed. The plan was to sell BMW completely to Mercedes-Benz. Yes, BMW was almost swallowed up by its biggest rival. The paperwork was ready. The board members were gathered. BMW was almost gone forever. But then, something happened that saved BMW's life. A man named Herbert Quandt stepped forward. He was a powerful German industrialist. He saw what was happening. He believed in BMW, even when everyone else thought it was finished. Even when Mercedes was ready to buy it, he said, no. He personally invested millions of dollars, in today's money, over $100 million, into BMW. He took major control of the company. He restructured the debt. He changed the strategy. He saved BMW from collapse. Because of Herbert Quandt, BMW remained independent. BMW survived. BMW had a second chance. This was BMW's turning point. After 2 wars, after being banned, after financial failure, BMW was still standing. But survival is not the same as success. Before we continue to the next chapter, I have a question for you. Put yourself in Herbert Quandt's shoes. Imagine you are rich, but you see a dying company. Everyone tells you it is a bad idea. Everyone says, let it go. Would you risk your own fortune to save a company that had failed so many times? Or would you play it safe? It is a difficult decision, isn't it? Please, pause for a moment and tell me your thoughts in the comments below. I really want to know what you would do. Chapter 2. Reinvention. The ultimate driving machine is born. By 1960, BMW was safe from bankruptcy, but they still had big problems. They had no strong product lineup. They had no luxury image. They had no brand identity. Their only recognizable product was their motorcycles. These were still reliable, but they were not profitable enough to carry the whole company. They had just avoided being swallowed by Mercedes, but the public still saw them as small, confused, and financially weak. If they wanted to survive, BMW needed to do 3 things. 1. Build a car that people loved. 2. Stand for something powerful. 3. Create a long-term vision. And that is where the revolution began. In 1961, at the Frankfurt Motor Show, BMW revealed something totally new. It was a car called the BMW 1500. It was part of a new project called the Neue Klasse. In German, this means new class. Why was this car so special? Because it was the perfect combination of everything BMW wanted to become. It was stylish, but not too flashy. It was compact, but powerful. It was comfortable, but sporty. It was affordable, but it felt premium. The 1500 had a 4-cylinder engine, a modern design, independent suspension, and disc brakes. It could reach 90 miles per hour, or 145 kilometers per hour. That was very impressive at that time. It had enough space for families, but enough power for car enthusiasts. It had enough soul for people to feel connected to it. And it worked. The BMW 1500 was an instant hit. Between 1962 and 1972, BMW sold over 300,000 units of the Neue Klasse cars. This included the 1500, 1600, 1800, and 2000 models. That number might not sound huge today, but at the time, it was life-saving. BMW went from losing money to becoming profitable again. They expanded production. They hired more workers. They began investing in new research and design. For the first time in decades, BMW had a future. What made BMW different was not just the engineering, it was the feeling they gave the driver. BMW didn't want to copy Mercedes-Benz. They didn't want to build big, heavy, slow luxury sedans. Instead, they focused on something different: driving pleasure. They wanted to build sporty cars, not just comfortable ones. They wanted cars that moved fast, turned smoothly, and felt alive in your hands. BMW started calling this idea Freude am Fahren in German. This translates to the joy of driving. Later, this would become the famous English slogan, the ultimate driving machine. It was simple. It was powerful. It was emotional. BMW was not just selling cars, they were selling a feeling of freedom. In the late 1960s, BMW began looking outside of Germany. They knew the real money was in the United States, the United Kingdom, and Asia, especially Japan. So, they began building new partnerships and distribution networks. In 1972, BMW of North America was officially created. Why was this important? Because America was car-obsessed. It was the home of muscle cars, racing culture, and huge car magazines. If BMW could succeed there, they could succeed anywhere. And guess what? They did. BMW drivers in the US loved the balance of European engineering and sporty performance. It felt like nothing else on the American roads. The BMW 2002, released in 1968, became a cult car in the US. It looked simple, but it drove like a beast. Car and Driver magazine called it one of the greatest cars ever made. Sales exploded. By 1975, BMW had become a respected international brand. In 1973, BMW completed its new global headquarters in Munich. It was shaped like a four-cylinder engine, a bold symbol of BMW's engineering soul. Next to it, they built the BMW Museum, shaped like a giant bowl. These buildings weren't just offices, they were statements. BMW was saying to the world, "We are not just a car company, we are an engineering legacy." And that blue and white circular logo? It became a global symbol. It stood for precision, elegance, passion, speed, and power. Now comes one of the most important moments in BMW history. Between 1972 and 1977, BMW launched the three core models that still define the company today. First, the BMW 5 Series in 1972. This was a mid-size luxury sedan. It was perfect for families and executives. It was balanced, beautiful, and reliable. Second, the BMW 3 Series in 1975. This was a compact sports sedan. It was affordable, but fast. It became BMW's best-selling car of all time. It still exists today. More than 16 million have been sold. Third, the BMW 7 Series in 1977. This was a full-size luxury sedan. It was designed to compete directly with the Mercedes-Benz S-Class. It was elegant, high-tech, and powerful. This wasn't random. BMW was organizing its identity. Each model had a number for the class, and more numbers for the engine size. Suddenly, the world began to understand the BMW system. They weren't just buying a car, they were joining a club. By 1980, BMW was no longer just surviving. It was thriving. Let's look at some numbers to show the transformation. In 1960, BMW made around 20,000 cars per year. By 1980, BMW was making over 350,000 cars per year. By 1990, that number crossed 550,000 per year. Their revenue in 1990 was around $21 billion, adjusted for inflation. Their cars were sold in over 120 countries. Their motorcycles were still respected. Their engineering department was working on next-generation engines, design, and even concept cars. From a company that once made cooking pots to survive, BMW was now a symbol of power and success. By the end of the 1980s, BMW had established itself as a world-class brand. No longer struggling, no longer in survival mode, but thriving, expanding, and winning. They had created the 3 Series, 5 Series, and 7 Series. They had opened new factories. They had entered major markets like America, Japan, and the Middle East. But BMW didn't want to be just a car manufacturer. They wanted to be known as the heartbeat of driving passion. They wanted to be a brand that represented adrenaline, precision, luxury, and power all in one. To do that, they had to do something bold. They had to enter the world of speed. BMW knew that to prove its engineering dominance, it had to win on the racetrack. And so, in the 1970s and 80s, they began pouring their soul into motorsport. This wasn't just a branding move, it was a technological investment. Because what happens on the racetrack pushes the limits of innovation. Their engines were tested at 300 kilometers per hour. Their brakes melted under pressure. Their designs were pushed through brutal wind tunnels. The most famous racing creation of that time was the BMW M1, released in 1978. It was a mid-engine sports car designed by Giorgetto Giugiaro, one of the greatest car designers in history. It had 277 horsepower and a top speed of 162 miles per hour, or 260 kilometers per hour. Built for Group 4 and Group 5 racing, this car was fast, low, aggressive, and unlike anything BMW had ever made. It wasn't just a race car, it was the birth of a new era. In 1972, BMW had quietly formed a special team, BMW Motorsport GmbH. This was a secret squad of engineers, designers, and racers. Their mission was to take regular BMW cars and turn them into beasts. In the years that followed, this team would create the legendary BMW M3, BMW M5, BMW M6, and eventually the M8. These were not just fast cars. They were weapons. They were luxury with fire in their veins. They became the dream cars of a generation. Let's break it down. In 1986, BMW introduced the first M3, E30. This car shocked the world. It had a 2.3-liter inline-4 engine, a lightweight body, and a screaming high-rev engine sound. It had track-ready suspension and a 0 to 60 mph time of just 6.7 seconds, which was super fast in the 1980s. But what made the M3 legendary wasn't just speed, it was balance. You could drive it on the track and then take it to the grocery store. It was a car that made you feel like a racing driver, even if you were just going to work. It won multiple world championships, dominated touring car racing, and built a cult following that continues to this day. By the time the next generation M3, E36, came out in the 1990s, BMW had already sold over 200,000 units of M-Series cars, generating over $10 billion in revenue. And they weren't done. As the 1990s began, BMW's identity was fully clear. It was not just luxury like Mercedes. It was not just type A technology like Audi. It was the ultimate combination of style, sport, and soul. Celebrities started driving BMWs. Musicians mentioned BMW in their lyrics. Entrepreneurs chose the 3 Series as their first luxury car. The 7 Series became the car of choice for diplomats and CEOs. Every BMW model became a statement. The 5 Series meant, "I've made it in life." The 3 Series Coupe meant, "I am young, rich, and fast." The M5 meant, "I want a supercar in a suit." Even movies got involved. James Bond drove a BMW 750iL in Tomorrow Never Dies in 1997. Mission: Impossible featured BMW M5's chases. BMW launched BMW Films, short cinematic films starring Clive Owen, made to show the emotion of driving. This was brilliant marketing. BMW was no longer just a company. It had become a culture. With growing demand, BMW had to scale fast. They opened or expanded production in Germany, Munich, Dingolfing, Regensburg, South Africa, Rosslyn plant, the United States, Spartanburg, South Carolina opened in 1994, China, India, Brazil, and more. The Spartanburg plant in America became a major part of BMW's global strategy. By the early 2000s, it was producing more than 1,000 cars a day, mostly X-Series SUVs, which were booming in demand. Let's look at the numbers to see the transformation. In 1990, BMW sold about 560,000 cars. Revenue was approximately $21 billion. In 2000, sales crossed 1 million units. Revenue was $45 billion. Net profit was over $2 billion. By 2010, the BMW Group, including Mini and Rolls-Royce, sold over 1.4 million cars annually. Revenue was $80 billion. Net income was over $4 billion. In just 20 years, BMW had quadrupled in scale. But BMW wasn't just chasing speed. They also focused on safety, engineering, precision, technology, comfort, and sustainability. They introduced features like iDrive, a touchscreen plus dial controller system, heads-up displays, adaptive cruise control, run-flat tires, and active steering. And all of this came without losing performance. This balance is what made BMW a different beast. Even before the world went electric, BMW began planning for the next era. In 2011, they announced the BMW i brand, their line of electric and plug-in hybrid vehicles. Their first model, the BMW i3, launched in 2013. It was a small, futuristic electric city car made with carbon fiber reinforced plastic. It was lightweight and designed for sustainability. This was followed by the BMW i8, a plug-in hybrid sports car. It had a futuristic design, a symbol of what cars could be. BMW was now preparing for a future where speed and sustainability could coexist. This part of the story, the rise of the M-Series and the new technology, is so exciting. It makes you want to see what happens next, doesn't it? If you are enjoying this history and you don't want to miss the next dramatic part of our storytelling series, please remember to subscribe to the channel. We have many more stories of resilience and success coming up, and I don't want you to miss them. Chapter 3: The Age of Challenge. BMW versus the future. In the early 2000s, a new player entered the automotive world. Tesla, led by Elon Musk. At first, traditional companies like BMW didn't take it too seriously. Tesla was small. It was American. And it only made electric cars, which many people still thought were weak, boring, or impractical. But Tesla had something powerful: vision. They weren't just making cars, they were building a movement: clean energy, innovation, and disruption. By 2012, the Tesla Model S arrived. It was luxurious, it was silent, it was fast, and it ran 300+ miles on a single charge. Suddenly, people started asking, why should I buy a BMW if I can get a Tesla? This was the first time in decades that BMW faced a real threat to its image. Not from Mercedes, not from Audi, but from an outsider. Governments around the world were also changing their laws. Countries like Germany, France, Norway, the UK, and China began announcing future bans on gasoline and diesel engines. Some said, no petrol cars after 2035. Others pushed for 100% EV by 2040. BMW's success had always been built on the internal combustion engine, that deep, powerful roar that made people fall in love with driving. Now the world was saying, turn off that engine or die. This wasn't just a marketing challenge. This was a complete transformation of identity. BMW had to make a decision. Do they go fully electric and leave behind 100 years of engine mastery? Or do they fight back and hold on to tradition? The answer was complicated. Instead of copying Tesla completely, BMW launched a new strategy called the power of choice. Their idea was this: we will give customers whatever powertrain they want: gasoline, diesel, hybrid, or electric. We won't force them. We will offer everything. This sounded smart. BMW started building flexible platforms, meaning the same car could be built with either a gas engine or an electric motor. They began launching new EVs and plug-in hybrids: the BMW 330e plug-in hybrid, the BMW X5 xDrive 45e, the BMW iX3, the BMW i4 electric sedan, the BMW iX fully electric SUV. These cars were good. They were elegant, fast, luxurious, and technologically advanced. But there was a problem. They didn't feel revolutionary. They felt like BMWs with batteries, not futuristic visions. In comparison, Tesla was updating its cars over the air. They were offering autopilot. They were breaking 0 to 60 mph records. They were building gigafactories in record time and making headlines daily. BMW's customers loved their cars, but the world's attention was shifting to newer, louder, faster-changing brands. In the 2020s, BMW made a bold design decision. They started releasing cars with huge front grilles, especially on the BMW 7 Series, BMW iX, and the BMW M3 M4 models. Traditionally, BMW had a kidney grille, elegant, sporty, and compact. But now it was huge, vertical, and extremely bold. The internet reacted immediately, and not in a good way. Car fans called it ugly. They said it was too aggressive. They called it a design mistake and said it ruined the face of BMW. Even loyal fans started asking, what happened to BMW's design soul? But BMW stood firm. They said, if people are talking, we're doing something right. We don't want to be boring. It was a risky move, but it created massive attention. BMW made headlines around the world. Some people hated it. Others loved it. But no one ignored it. This controversy about the design is interesting. It makes me think about how we handle change. Do you think companies should change their style to get attention, even if people complain? Or should they stay safe? If you have a friend who loves business debates or cars, why not share this story with them? It is a great topic for discussion. Despite the challenges, BMW remained financially strong. Let's look at the numbers. In 2015, revenue was $100 billion. Net profit was $7 billion. Cars sold 2.25 million. Then came 2020, the pandemic year. Revenue dropped to $116 billion. Net profit was $4.7 billion, but they still sold 2.3 million cars. By 2023, revenue jumped to $157 billion. Net profit was $18 billion. They sold over 2.5 million cars. And importantly, over 376,000 of those were electric vehicles, including hybrids and full EVs. BMW was not dying. It was adapting. But it was adapting slowly and carefully. BMW also began focusing heavily on technology. They added voice assistants inside the car, digital dashboards, and the BMW operating system 8. They added over-the-air software updates, gesture control, and integration with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. They also began partnering with tech companies for autonomous driving, smart parking, and artificial intelligence inside the car. They created the BMW Digital Key, allowing your phone to become your car key. The company was sending a clear message: we are not just about engines anymore, we are about innovation. One of BMW's smartest moves in the 2020s was rethinking its brand message. Instead of only focusing on horsepower, top speed, and 0 to 60 numbers, they began focusing more on joy, freedom, sustainability, and emotion. They redesigned their logo in 2020. They made it flat, modern, and minimal, a symbol of digital evolution. Their slogan also evolved from the ultimate driving machine to a more emotional approach, sheer driving pleasure. They wanted people to remember that a BMW is not just transportation, it is an experience. BMW also continued managing two of the most famous sub-brands in the world, Rolls-Royce and Mini. They had purchased Rolls-Royce in 1998 and Mini in 2000. Both brands were very different. Rolls-Royce was extreme luxury for billionaires. Mini was urban, fun, and youthful with personality. But BMW handled both brilliantly. They kept the heritage, the design soul, and the target audience, and still brought in modern tech, electric variants, and global sales. BMW's long-term strategy, called Neue Klasse, yes, the same name as the 1960s revolution, was reintroduced. This time, it stands for fully electric platforms, radical design, innovation, circular economy, recycling, sustainability, zero emissions, and a high digital experience. By 2030, BMW plans for 50% of all sales to be electric. All Mini and Rolls-Royce models will be fully electric. All factories will be carbon neutral. They also committed over $100 billion for EV development and battery factories. Chapter 4: Legacy, Love, and the Unstoppable Soul of BMW. As BMW entered the 2020s, it stood at the edge of a new era. Not just a new chapter in design or new technologies or new electric ambitions, but a new kind of challenge: to stay human in a world becoming more machine, to stay emotional in a time becoming more digital, to stay BMW in a world trying to change what cars mean. Because BMW's story has never been just about building cars. It has always been about something much deeper. You see, when someone buys a BMW, they are not just buying a machine. They are buying confidence. They are buying movement. They are buying dreams. They are buying power that listens to them. And sometimes they are buying the proof that they made it. Ask any passionate BMW driver, and they will tell you, when I sit behind that steering wheel, I feel alive. There is a reason the brand has survived. 2 world wars, economic collapse, legal bans, near bankruptcy, global competition, technological revolutions, and the biggest transformation in car history, electricity. No matter what happened, BMW kept moving, and so did the people who loved it. BMW is the car for the person who doesn't want to show off, but wants to feel something. It is for the person who doesn't just drive, but lives behind the wheel. They don't need the fastest Euro to 60 time, but they love how the car hugs the road. They want a car that isn't just smart, but also speaks to the heart. That is why for millions of people, their first BMW is unforgettable. Maybe it was an old 3 Series. Maybe it was a hand-me-down from their father. Maybe it was a second-hand car they saved up years for. Maybe it was the reward they gave themselves after building a business. But it meant something. It wasn't about the leather seats. It was about that first morning drive. It was about the first turn. It was about the way the engine whispered, "You are not just going to work today. You are alive." BMW's journey is one of the most powerful business lessons in human history. Here is what it teaches us. 1. You can be reborn more than once. BMW was almost destroyed multiple times. In 1919, when Germany was banned from making planes. In 1945, after their factories were bombed. In 1959, when they were nearly bought by Mercedes. In the 2010s, when Tesla stole the spotlight. But every time, BMW didn't cry. They rebuilt. They reimagined. They rose again. In life and business, you will fall. That doesn't mean you are finished. It means you are ready to transform. 2. Don't be afraid to change. BMW didn't say, "We are just an engine company." They became a motorcycle innovator, a car legend, a luxury designer, a racing champion, a technology leader, an electric pioneer. If they had refused to adapt, they would have been gone decades ago. If you don't change, the world will leave you behind. 3. Legacy is built through pain. People respect BMW not because it was perfect, but because it suffered, survived, and kept going. The beauty of BMW is in its imperfections, the wars it had to live through, the markets it lost, the mistakes it made, the criticism it faced. But the soul always remained. As of the latest numbers, BMW Group's total value is over $110 billion. Annual revenue exceeds $157 billion. Net profit is over $18 billion per year. They employ over 130,000 people globally. They have a presence in over 140 countries. They produce over 2.5 million vehicles every year. Electric and hybrid vehicles make up more than 25% of total sales. They own and operate BMW, Mini, Rolls-Royce, and BMW Motorrad motorcycles. BMW is not just surviving. It is leading again. But now the question is not just about money. It is about meaning. As artificial intelligence grows, as roads become autonomous, as EVs become silent, will BMW's passion still matter? Yes, because BMW is preparing for a future that combines emotion with software, performance with electricity, heritage with innovation. Their upcoming Neue Klasse EVs promise to be faster than ever, more sustainable than ever, and more digital than ever. Yet, they will still feel like a BMW behind the wheel. That is the secret. BMW refuses to let technology kill emotion. They want to prove you can still feel joy, even in the age of silence. You may never own a BMW. You may never drive one. But the story you have just heard is not really about a car. It is about a group of humans who refuse to quit. It is about a company that rose from ashes again and again. It is a symbol of reinvention and a reminder that nothing is truly over until you give up. BMW lost everything. Not once, not twice, but multiple times. And yet, here they are, still building, still racing, still dreaming. And maybe that is what you need right now, too. Maybe your life has hit a wall. Maybe your dream feels broken. Maybe your identity is being tested. Maybe the world thinks your time is over. Let BMW remind you, you are allowed to collapse. But you are not allowed to stay down. You can reinvent. You can evolve. You can become the ultimate driving machine of your own life. BMW is not just a company. It is a lesson in courage. It is a story of speed, soul, and survival. And it is a reminder that every engine that stops can start again. And that is where our story concludes. This one was a real journey, wasn't it? I am so curious to hear your take on it all. What were your final thoughts? Do you have any lingering questions about why the company made the choices it did? Please leave all your opinions, theories, and questions below. I truly love reading them and building this conversation with all of you. Thank you for watching this full biography. And remember, this story wasn't just told for entertainment. It was told to improve your English, to inspire your mind, and to awaken your heart. If you learned something powerful today, if your English improved with this story, and if you felt emotion from a brand's life story, then do one thing right now. Like, share, and subscribe, because this channel is here to teach you English and also to change your life, one story at a time.